Hi, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to paint Raggedy Andy. And in your kit, you'll have a pre-sketched canvas with a little bit of raised surface. I want you to know that's glue gun there for some texture. You have, of course, a tray and some paints. You have strings, napkins, your paint brushes, and also a plastic covering for your area to protect it. What you're going to need is a very small amount of water. We're going to be painting with dirty brushes, which means we're not going to be using water to wash our brushes off. So we want to lay our paints out in this order and try to lay them out in the same order every time you do any type of paint project. Yellow, then red, the lighter blue, the darker blue, and the white. I always separate my white a little bit because I don't want it to get contaminated or get these other paints in there. So we're going to set this to the side for just a second, not too far from the side. Right here, and then we will begin. Now, what we're going to use, first of all, is one of the napkins. So take the napkin and ball it up. We're going to use it as our largest paintbrush, and we're going to paint our background. Go ahead and just for a very small amount, dip it in the lighter blue color. See, I don't have that much paint on there, not that much. That's probably too much. So we're going to just dab it all over the background area. I want to make sure you go into the edges of your painting, your sketch. Also go over all of the hair of Raggedy Andy. See that? I'm just dabbing it everywhere in the background. You have background on the bottom, and that goes right into the edge of his shoes, his pants, everything. Just randomly dab it. That's why you balled up the paper towel. See how I went into the edge? I want you to see that. I went into the edge of his clothing, which is what you want to do. And you want to go all over his hair. So we're not making a solid background. Just set that aside. So I have that. See, I got most of that paint off. Just set it to the side. Set it to the side. Now you have your string, and you're going to dip the string in the darkest blue paint. You can use the handle of one of the paint brushes if you like, just to dip it into the paint without getting your hands too dirty. That's fine. And then just put it here, drag it or dance it over the edge or over the surface of your painting. Don't be afraid to drag it or dab it. You're just getting markings down. You don't really care what the markings look like. It's not going to matter. We're doing a little abstract background. So you're just randomly putting it here and there. I'm starting to get it all over me. So now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. So you see you have the dark paint and you have the light paint on there. Now you're going to take that same paper towel and just dab it into the white. And I have a good amount on there. See how that white is kind of globbed on there. And I'm going to lightly dab it all over. And it's going to mix with the blues that are on there. That's the whole idea. Dirty paintbrush is going to mix with the blues. So now I'm using a large amount of pressure. And as you can see, it's changing these dark, thick colors into much lighter blues. That's what you want to do. See that? And if you need to, grab some more white. I'm getting globs of white and dab it all over the background. And if you want to, you can twist. See, I'm twisting that. You can twist that on the background, especially where you see the markings that say Raggedy Andy with the glue gun. And don't forget that bottom part down there. Don't be particular, just dab it, dab it, dab it. You can dab it without looking and it'll end up being perfect. You just want to make sure some of the paint goes into the edges of Raggedy Andy. And now you can get rid of that. You don't need that paper towel anymore. So look at my painting. You see it's not filled in. You see some vacant spaces that look white, and you see blue, light blues, dark blues. See, I can still see the lines here for that from that dark blue. So I didn't totally take away everything that I put on there. Just enough to cover the background and then to make the background look abstract so that it doesn't take away from the attention that you're going to give Raggedy Andy. All right, now we're ready. We are ready to go. So we've done the background, and now what we're going to do is we're going to do Raggedy Andy's flesh. And we're going to mix that paint up, and mixing the paint up will give us a more vibrant color, and that's what we want to do. So we need some ultramarine blue, and I'm using my larger brush. You're not going to need a lot. So I have that there, and you're going to need some red. Almost equal amounts, and you're going to need some yellow. Almost equal amounts, and mix that up. It looks a mess, a mess, a mess. It'll give you a weird blue, brown, greenish color. You can mix a little bit more red right here on the side. And now I'm going to mix some white. Don't mix the white right directly into the pile. Come to the side. So see, the white is over here on the side. Now just put the white there, and what you have on your brush, you can mix a little with that. Not much, just a little here on the side. So now what happens is I have 2 piles of paint to work from. So that's what you want. We're going to take that paint and we're going to paint his whole face. So just paint this whole bottom all the way around. He's got a round face, round. It's going to go right through some of the hair. Don't worry about that. You're going to cover that up. Take some of that paint right here on the side. And you're using the darker paint because you're creating a 3D look. And now we're going to paint the left side of the neck. So that's going to be a little darker than his face. And now we're going to paint the left side of the hand, just the outline of the hand. That's it. And the left side of the other hand. You're just doing the left side, not the whole hand, just the left side. Now you can wipe your paintbrush off on your paper towel. Just wipe it off. And now you're going to pick up that white. When you put that white paint there, grab that white paint right there. And you're going to paint from the left side of his neck around, and the left side of his hand over. So you're going to touch the paint that you already have there, and you're going to drag it over to the other side. And that's how you paint the whole hand. And you're going to do that on the other hand too. And now for the face. The face, we did the round. You're going to put the white paint right here on the inside. You're going to grab this paint that you already did and dab it towards the middle. You have white paint on your paintbrush. Grab that paint with the paintbrush on it, with the white paint on it, excuse me, and bring that towards the middle. As it comes to the middle, dab it. Make sure you dab it. Go around the eyes. Don't worry about the eyelashes or the eyebrows. Just go around the nose. And if you lose the mouth, it's okay. It's just there so you can know it's there. We can draw that back in. The mouth is just a smiley face emoji. That's all it is. There. So it should look a little blotchy and splotchy. That's what it's going to look like. It's not a solid color. We want the outside of his face to have a darker color than the middle. And we want the left side of his neck to have a little bit more color than the right side. The light is on the right. The left side of his hand, I'm just dabbing it now. You can go back and dab it if you like, or swipe it. But you don't want it to be one solid color. It's going to be blotchy looking because that's what our skin looks like. Now, if you want it lighter, you can add a little bit more white to it. And now we just wipe the paint off the paintbrush. And that's your flesh. Now we're going to move on to his shirt. And the shirt is white, so are the socks. His socks are white and his shirt is white. So we are going to go right into the white paint and paint his shirt, not the collar. Go around the collar. You're just putting a nice little thin layer of paint here on his shirt. You can still see his the lines of the shirt, which looks like a plaid shirt almost, but it's a striped shirt. So we're not putting a huge amount of white on here, just enough to cover the canvas. And you can still see the lines. And you'll be able to see the paint markings from the background through this paint also, which is going to give us some great points of interest. That's it, just a thin layer on the shirt and do a thin layer on the socks, just a thin layer. Because the socks are white with blue stripes. And the reason we're painting in this order is because we have to come back over the shirt and the socks with another color. And we want this white to be somewhat dry. Otherwise, we're going to get a totally different color than what we want. There. Perfect. The other thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and paint his eyes. So we have the white paint on there. We'll go ahead, and his eyes are just big circles. We're going to paint big circles of white. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want big white circles. And you want them almost the same size. You want them to look like they're about the same size. Now, it looks like circles. They're not perfect, but that's okay. There we have his little wide eyes. That's what it's going to look like he's wide-eyed. And then wipe that paint off of your brush. We paint with a dirty brush because it helps to mix the paints and create interesting looks for us so we don't have to work so hard for it, okay? Now we're gonna let that set up, and while that's setting up, we're gonna go ahead and paint the collar and the pants, which will be that dark blue color. So we're gonna take the dark blue color, and this we may have to add another layer, we're not sure, but we're just gonna go ahead and paint it. Sometimes the paint looks really thin when we do it. Just put his collar, lay his little collar on there. He's got a little knot right here where it's tied at. And then on the other side, of course. Now, don't fuss too much over the shapes. If your shape when you paint, looks different than the shape that was on there in the beginning, that is quite all right. Those markings are there as a guide. You can change this, and oftentimes it'll change as we're painting, and that is okay. And now I almost painted the collar. I forgot this little piece out here. And sometimes you lose you lose the shapes of what you have, and it's okay to just go ahead and make another shape in that general area. That's painted. Now I'm going to paint the pants. He has 2 patches on his pants, so I'm going to paint around those. So I'm going to go ahead, instead of starting up here, I'm going to start around the patches. That way I keep them intact. And it's okay if you paint over the lines. The general idea is to just make sure you have that patch. But you want to paint around those, because if you mix the blue paint with the red, it's going to give you purple. And if you mix it with the yellow paint, it's going to give you green. Now, if that's the color, if you don't mind that color, that's okay. But if you have Raggedy Ann, you want the colors to be the same. She has a yellow and a red patch. And so we put a yellow and a red patch on him as well. We don't really have any green in the painting. And we don't want to introduce green in the painting in just one place. Otherwise, it'll throw the whole painting off. So there, I've painted around my patches. That's there. And again, if you change the shape, which I'm changing the shape slightly, which is okay. The whole point in Raggedy Ann and Andy doll in the past is that you used old material that you were was scraps. So now you can paint in the rest of the pants. I just take my time and paint around the edges where the shirt is and the hands are. Otherwise, I may paint over them. Sometimes I do that. But I don't want the paint to mix with what's already down there. This is fabric. So you're going to have some ripples here and there. It's not going to be straight. So we're painting this. Now, he has 2 legs here. So what I'm doing is I'm painting close to the line, but not over the line. Because I know where the line is. Oops, painted into the patch again. It's okay. Remember, it's okay if you change the shape of it. It's quite all right. But I often do it when I'm painting. I'm just adding paint, and I'm doing it in a way without thought. So they call that intuitive painting. And your painting takes on a really beautiful life of its own, as they say. There. And so you see that little line going through there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little white and paint up here where his knees would be. See how I swiped the paint in there? And then I'm going to, that's the white paint I swiped in there, and I'm going to wipe the rest of that off. And now I'm going to come back with some blue and paint that line. And then I'm going to take this white light, see it's changing the color. And I'm going to come down close to where the line was, and over here, close to where the line is. So you can see a little difference. You may not be able to see it really well, but right here in the crease is the darker blue, and up here is the lighter blue. I'm going to add more blue paint up here. And that's why we paint with a dirty brush. It does what we need without us having to do so much of the work. And I'm leaving the streaks going from his the bottom of the pants upward, so that will move your eyes perfectly well. I'm just adding a little more paint up here around the waist. Sometimes it's really streaky. The paints do what they want to do, and it may not look thick enough or solid, but you don't want it super solid. You want it kind of streaky so that it looks like fabric. And don't forget, there's that little piece of fabric down here at the bottom where the socks are, right here. Okay, now wipe that paint off because it still has some of that white mixed in. And we're going to go into the blue and paint the stripes on the socks. So I have paint loaded, enough paint loaded. You want to load up just like that. Load up enough paint on that paintbrush so that you can draw this line in one swipe. So just come to the edge of the sock and go up, over, and around. And do it again, up, over, and around. And it's not perfect, but it's fabric, so it's not a straight line. It's kind of wiggly here and there. So now I'm going to add more paint to the paintbrush, and I'm going to do the other sock. I'm going to go up, over, and around. I tell myself that so that I know I'm going up, over, and around the leg to the other side. And it'll look 3D. Perfect. That's it. I don't want to add extra paint to that line because it's fabric and it's going up and over the leg. Where the paint gets thin will be perfect. I don't even need to try and work that out. All right, so we've done that. Now we're going to go and we're going to do his shoes, and we're going to do some details on his face. We usually leave that for last, but we're going to go ahead and do that now. We're going to do the shoes, details on his face, and we're going to need that dark blue. So we need a good amount of the dark blue this time because we want those colors to be dark, almost black. They're not going to be black, but it's going to be what painters call black. So I got a good amount of blue there. Good amount of blue. And I'm going to take some of that red, not as much red as I have blue, to put on there. And then just a touch of yellow. And we're going to mix that up. That red and blue will make purple. And so we're putting a touch of yellow in there to kind of tone the purple down, but not turn it brown. Get a little bit more red in there. I'm looking to see how dark it is. I want it dark, but I don't really want it to be purple, which it will be sort of a purplish color because of the blue and red. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more yellow. I'm just kissing it with yellow because I don't want it purple, but I don't want it brown either. Now I'm going to do the shoes. Excuse me. We're going to do the first shoe here, go there, and the second one. Mine is a little on the purple side, so I'm going to add a bit more yellow. And we don't want to mix up everything, all of the paints. I generally don't mix the paints really, really well. That way I can see all these different colors. And now I'm just dabbing this on top to tone down the purple. And it's making it look black. So we're using the complementary colors. That's what we're doing. And I'm getting ready to paint more, and I don't have anything else there to paint. So now I'm going to wipe that paintbrush off. I have a good pile of that paint right there. So before I wipe my paintbrush off, I'm going to come right here in the middle of the eye and do a dot. Just a dot, no more. Just a dot right in the middle. His one eye is bigger than the other. There you go. Dot in the middle. That's all it takes for his eyeballs. And then we'll wipe that paint off. That's wiped off. You can actually go ahead and wash that paintbrush now off in the water. And then dry it off. We'll come back to it in just a second. We're going to take that smaller paintbrush and we're going to go into that mixture we just made. Looks like a purple blackish, whatever that is. And we're going to give him some eyebrows, which his eyebrows are just, this is all it is. That's his eyebrows. So that's all we're doing. And we're going to do it right up a little ways above the eye, both eyes. Just make sure they're across from each other. Otherwise, it looks like he has raised eyebrows. And now we're going to do his eyes, and his eyes, eyelashes is just going to be 3 lines like this, but we're not going to make them that long. So Raggedy Ann looks like she has long lashes, and we're just going to give him 3 little dashes down here. That's it. That's all he needs, 3 little dashes. And now we're going to give him a smile. So remember, it's like an emoji smiley face. That's it. Notice this side looks thicker than that side. I don't go back over it. Just one stroke and let it go. And then wash your brush off in the water. And we'll set that to the side. We're going to pick up our other brush. I do it every time. See, I covered up my patch over here on this side, so I only have one patch. I'll have to go back and make another patch. One of his patches is yellow and one is red. So I'm going to make this one yellow. Yellow needs the white background, otherwise it won't show up. So I'm going to paint this patch yellow. Perfect. And I will wipe my brush off, my paper towel, and then paint your other patch red. This is not going to show up so good. No. I knew it wouldn't. You need the white background on there in order to get that nice bright color. So I'm going to, if you did what I did, just go in and paint a patch. Of white. That has to dry off before I can paint it over. Otherwise, it'll turn pink. Okay, wipe that off. Now we're going to, let's see. We're going to do his hair. Now, his hair is made out of yarn. And so it's going to look kind of wishy-washy here and there and everywhere. So we're going to go straight with your largest brush. We're going to go into the red. The background should be dry, so you can put this on there. I'm going to go here with the red, and I'm just going to make just dabbing streaks here and there. It's going to go in his face. If you still have the hair markings there, that will be great. You can paint inside them. I don't. I painted over them and I can't see them. You don't want it solid, so you want to be able to see the background in between the hair markings. And then go straight into the yellow. Do not clean your brush. Go straight into the yellow and make the markings. Here and there. Dab, swipe. Nicely done. Nicely done. So I don't have that much markings behind my hair. So I'm going to cheat and put a little of the dark markings in here too. That dark color that you mixed up, I'm just going to put a little of that in here, so that his hair is not as bright as the rest of them, or brighter than. And it mixes on its own. Just dab and swipe, dab and swipe. That's all you're doing, dabbing and swiping. I'm just going to wipe my brush off. I'm going to add a little more red. What I'm doing is I'm adding it so that his hair looks like it's turning orange. And it'll do that as the paint mixes. The yellow will look like highlights. There we have it. There we have it. And I just wiped some of that paint off, and I'm going to go straight into the red. His mouth, right here in the middle, is a circle of red. And it's not that big, but it's there. And then, of course, his nose is a triangle. That's right above his mouth. And then you can wipe your brush. You can rinse that brush off in water. You're going to take that small daughter-like brush, is what they call it, and now you're going to make the stripes on the shirt. So there are long lines going all the way down the shirt, and then you go back on across them. So this is where having a hand that's not so steady will be perfect, because this is fabric. Just go down and load the brush up again and go down the arm. And it should look wiggly here and there. That's what it should look like. And some parts will be thicker than others, and that will be perfect, because that's what your fabric looks like when you're wearing fabric. So just come down the body. And I'm not going over any lines. I'm just going down the body. Each time I'm adding paint to the brush, this is a very small brush, so it only holds so much paint at a time, which is perfect for making a line all the way down. So it'll be thick in some areas and thin in some areas. And you see my hand just dances around the place, which is fine. It gives you the perfect lines on fabric. Perfect. That. And now we're going to go, so I do all the lines going up and down first. And now I'm going to do the lines going across. You want to address each arm individually and the body individually. If you draw lines from the arm to arm, I'll be able to tell. So let's go in to do the body first. The body goes out and around. So if you cannot see your lines, just act like you're drawing lines, connecting the dots, so to speak, from one side to the other, just on the body. And we're going to go around the next one, go around, follow that around. Each of the edges, the ends, that beginning end and that last end should end in upward motion. So to get the upward motion here, I'm going to start the line and go down, and it gives me that upward motion right there. And I'm going around and go up. That looks like it's going around the body. So come down and then up. Same thing, going around the body, following those lines. They're squiggly, which is good. And now this last line, or the top line, is going behind that collar and that tie. So it's going to be broken from one line to the other. You come from behind there, it's broken. So it's not a solid line. Make sure you don't do a solid line. There you go. To the body. And now we're going to do the hand, or excuse me, the arm. It's going, and for the arms, we're going sort of in the opposite direction almost. We're going to start down, go around it, and end down. So the two edges, like this, the two edges will be down. We're going to go around and down. So this edge is down, that edge is down compared to that. Whereas with the body, we started, even though we said down, we went like this, down and around the body, and we ended up. So this point and that point were up. For the arms, these 2 points will be downward. So we'll load the brush between each line that's going across. You can start at the top or the bottom. It's usually easier to start at the top so you don't get in your own way, and go down. I'm going up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. When you start going down, you'll hit that line. So you'll go up, sort of up. You're going to hit that line and go down. Up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. And you tell yourself that so that the brush does what it needs to do, and you'll be able to tell the difference when you step back and look at it. Up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. This brush sometimes holds enough paint that you can do 2 lines. Up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. Load that paintbrush. Go up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. And I have lines that are thicker than the others, which is perfect. And this side, the same thing as that. So this arm, we're going to go up and around. Up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. I've lost a lot of my lines, which means I painted over them and can't see them, but that's okay, as long as I keep doing what, doing the pattern, up, around, and down. It'll be perfect. Now, when you're doing the arm, you're not trying to line these lines up with the ones on the body. Sometimes it just happens that way, but you're not trying to do it. So up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. Up, around, and down. And you do want that wiggle, unsteadiness in the hand, so that it'll look like fabric. Otherwise, it looks perfect, and we don't want it to look perfect. And I have a little shoulder line I need to put in over there. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And because I messed up, remember I told you I do that. Oftentimes I do it, and I still went back and painted that. So now I need to go back in and paint my patch red because I painted over it. There we have it. Perfect. Perfect. I don't know if you can see it on mine. You may see it on yours and not like it, but I can see, I'm gonna hold it up so you can see it. See how I went over that sock with the blue when we first did our background, and it looks like a shadow. When you look here, it makes that look 3D like a shadow. So we keep from having to do so much work by doing little tricky things at the beginning. There we have it. I love it. I love it. And when you look at it from a distance, you can see the hands, the neck, the face. It looks like 3D because it should be darker under the neck, darker on the side of the hand. Even the pant legs are sticking out. And I almost painted all of mine, but you can see some of it, the blues in between some of the hair, which that's what you want. When you look at someone's head, it's not one solid block of hair. You can see the background through some of the hair. All right, that's Raggedy Andy. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. So until next time,